I mean, I've certainly seen a change in the student body over the last, 20, 25 years. You know what I mean? There's a couple things that like, there's a huge evolution in terms of just, I'll just say empathy and care for one another. Like I've never been around a generation of people who are so kind of in tune with caring for one another, right? And that's something I think that it comes. It's just different than I think the way I was raised. Not that I wasn't raised to care for people because I certainly was, but I think being born in the 1970s, growing up in the 90s, there was a like feelings of pain and feelings of suffering and things like this. Not that I went through real suffering, but those were normal parts of our lives. You know what I mean? Like we broke bones. We went out and partied and like got lost and like, woke up in a park somewhere. You know what I mean? Like, all kinds of, like, I'm just saying like, like my parents would let me leave for the day and I might not come back until the next day, you know what I mean? With one phone call late at night. So like, all I'm saying is like, there's a range of feeling in that, I think we also then saw other people's pain as was okay. People hurt, people suffer. Like these things happen. I mean, this is my own kind of anecdotal kind of version of this. But I see with students like they have like a lower kind of set of those kind of emotions and where they go, and I mean a lower range. But it makes them care for each other in ways that are like that I think really support one another, and that's something really beautiful that I see in students today. Um, and I think that there's a range of reasons that's happening. I think as a society, we have less suffering in it, you know what I mean, than we have, even from my childhood. But at the same time, I think these kids have been attuned to that, the way they're raised, the way their parents have raised them. Do you know what I mean? All of those things. Um, but then that translates to, them being interested in issues and wanting to take on issues that I think my generation might not have seen as important. I mean, we might have seen it as like, this is competition. Some people don't make it, you know what I mean? And other people do. I mean, that's not, no one ever says that or thought that, but I think in the back of people's minds, there's a version of that world that was out there before, probably the last 15 years. And these kids I say kids that, I teach graduate students, they're adults, but they're leading that charge and they're going to change the world in ways that I think are really important. And as designers, their interest, I find the students I'm teaching are much more interested in those sets of issues that help shape the kind of sociocultural realm and the kind of biophysical realm that are about kind of care and relationships. You know what I mean? And that to me is like really makes me very optimistic about the world ahead of us. It's one that it shapes it in ways that you can be kind of cheesy and say it's about love, but it's this idea that everyone has something to contribute, everyone has something to put into the world, and it's worth taking the time to make sure that they have their voice at the table. And I see that in the small microcosm of the classroom, much more than I did when I was, in school. So I think that part's really amazing. I do think they're in a very tough moment where they are every single image, every single sound, every single video is at their fingertips. You know what I mean? And there is very little like, myself as a kid, I took a lot of pride in like cultivating my set of movies and music and like, you know what I mean? Like I had this group, I had my friends that we liked these certain things. But we were like wanted to be cool because we knew things other people didn't know, kind of, you know what I mean? And in a weird way, maybe I'm old and I just don't know what the hell they're up to. But in some ways, I see them as like almost seeing it all already, and then they need to do something with that. And that's a really, as a designer, that's a tough place to be, I think, in some sense. You know what I mean? Because you haven't kind of cultivated that individual style for yourself in some sense, and it's almost like everything's out there already. So what are you putting into it? And that's where I see this kind of like idea about care coming out a lot. But as a kind of designer that's developing an aesthetic and kind of an approach to kind of formal design and the shaping of the world around us, it's like all out there, right? And so it's like if I just do a search, a Pinterest board is going to come up with everything on it, or Google is going to show me everything pretty quickly.